Hi, welcome back to Finding Better. My name is John Suzuki, and I'm your host. Finding Better is the place where you can come to hear about experiences, real life experiences of people who have been there and done that in terms of whatever it is we're talking about to build a better life for themselves. The idea is to share so that you can learn from these experiences and perhaps apply some of those lessons to your own life. It's very, very cool, and it's a really, really great place to be. So today's episode is is what I call a John talk. Okay, it's just me talking to you heart to heart about what I see going on out there. And I'll do this every once in a while, but I think it's important that you know who the person is who's talking to you and the way that I think and what I think is important. Because here's the thing, as I've told you before, I believe that we all have a shared purpose. We share a common purpose, and that is to make the world better than the day we all landed on it. And and part of this podcast is all about bringing people together, and that's one way to make the world better, right? Because I don't know about you, but what I see out there in a lot of ways is a really messed up world. There's so much hate and vitriol, and there's so many seems like different powers out there that are trying to rip us apart and trying to separate us. And the world has gone into extremes. You got the extreme left, you got the extreme right. But you know what, folks? There's a great big world in the middle of those two extremes, isn't there? And, I would hope that our politicians would work to bring us together, but I'm not seeing that happening. In fact, I see our politicians uh, pouring fuel on that fire. And so, it really is. I've come to realize that it's up to us. It's up to you. It's up to me. It's up to we as just people to come together, come together. And so my talk with you today is about joining me in this idea of coming together and making the world better and creating something of a movement, right? Of bringing people together. Because, there is just so much fear in the world. And we've been conditioned by it. I'm fearful of a lot of things. And when I look at things as the way they are, I sit here and go, why am I scared of this? What am I afraid of? Right. And I've realized that we are conditioned to be fearful. And if you're looking at me on my Finding Better YouTube channel, I'm pointing at a picture. And a picture on my wall is a picture of Martin Luther King Jr. And what he says in this picture is darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. And hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. And that's from Martin Luther King. And so, what I take from that and what I've learned in my experience is that the antidote to fear and hate really is love. It's love. And yet, how much do you hear about love these days? We hear a lot about fear and hate, and we hear a lot about stories that instill fear and hate. But what about love? And I've come to the realization that that's up to us. That's up to us because the antidote to fear and hate is love. And and we've had a couple of podcast episodes talking about giving. And our realization that giving is not about the person receiving, giving is about the person giving, and how it can really, really lift your spirit. And giving is an act of love in a lot of ways. And that's part of the reason why our spirits get raised. And it doesn't and so I invite you to join me in giving. And it doesn't have to be giving doesn't have to be a great big giant thing. I'm reminded of a story about an old man who was walking along a beach. And the night before was a really big storm. And this storm had washed up thousands and thousands of starfish up along this beach. And so he's walking along this beach, and in the distance, he sees a little boy. And he sees that the little boy is bending over and picking up starfish and throwing them into the water. And as the old man approaches the little boy, he asks the little boy, "Hey, what are you doing?" The little boy says, I'm picking up starfish and throwing them back in the water." And the old man turns to him and he says, "There must be thousands of starfish on this beach. You can't possibly make a difference." And the little boy looked at him and he looked down and he picked up another starfish. He threw it in the water and he said, "I made a difference to that one." And that is such a great story of making a difference. And as I'm going out with my podcast and with my book and with the message that I'm saying I'm trying to send out messages of love and hope and encouragement and empowerment, right? All those different kinds of things. Knowing that I'm just going out there and reaching people one person at a time. And if I can reach one person with any of the messages that I have to offer, that's a win. That's a great win. And so giving can be as simple as sharing a lesson that you learned. If you learned something on this podcast that is just a really wonderful lesson that has affected your life or can affect your life, share it. Share it with other people. I don't care if you give me credit. Take the credit, right? But share it so other people can learn from it. Or let people know about this podcast because we're going to be talking about all kinds of things. And so I invite you to join me on this little mission of making the world better, one person at a time. And think of it as starfish, right? And I think we really, really can make a difference. And again, if you make the difference, if you make a difference in the life of one person to make their lives better, you are, in fact, making the world better and lifting the world. It just works that way. Okay. So I know this is short. I know this was very self-serving on my part. Um, but again, I invite you to join me and teach people. Teach people the things that you learn. Because you know what? When you think about it, the best way to really learn something is to teach it. So go out, teach, give, and that of itself is going to change you. It's going to change you, and it's going to change. At least my experience has been, the more I give, the more I receive. And so in some ways you can look at it as being selfish, but start small. Start small. Just give people information and share the lessons that you're learning. And we'll make it all happen. It's inevitable. The world will be better. Okay. With that, this is John Suzuki. Thank you again. And if you want to learn more about me, or if you don't know who I am, you can always look me up at johnsuzuki.com. Okay. And there's all kinds of information there. Thank you for listening. And yeah, here's to making the world better. Thanks.